with that, I'd like to now call to order the regular meeting of the Northfield Township Board of Trustees for March 9th, 2021 at 7:15 p.m. Apologize that we're running a little behind, folks. We will dispense with the invocation and pledge as we stated that at the first meeting. Roll call, please.
Chick.
Janice Chick here, Northfield Township, Michigan, Washtenaw County.
Otto.
Becky Otto, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County, Michigan.
Nelson.
Joshua Nelson, present, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County, Michigan.
Moko.
Nate Moko, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County, Michigan.
Zelenak.
Present, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County, Michigan.
Manley. Present, Washtenaw County, Michigan. Northfield Township. Dignan.
Present, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County, Michigan. Okay, we do have a quorum.
7-0.
Next item is the approval of the minutes of the February 25th, 2021 regular meeting.
Was that a motion?
It was not, but it can be. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 25th meeting, regular meeting.
I'll
Is there
support.
support?
Oh, go ahead, Nelson.
Motion by Dignan, support by Nelson. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Manley. Yes. Dignan.
Yes.
Otto.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Chick.
Yes.
Moko.
Yes.
Zelenak.
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you very much. Next item is the consent agenda. I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Dignan, support by Manley. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will you please call the roll?
Yep. Zelenak.
Yes.
Otto.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Moko.
Yes.
Chick.
Yes.
Dignan.
Yes.
Manley. Yes. 7-0.
Next is I'll make a motion to adopt the balance of the agenda as presented. Is there support for that?
Support.
Support.
Okay. Make a motion. The motion was by Dignan, supported by Ms.
Chick.
Chick. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will you call the roll, please?
Yep. Manley. Yes. Dignan.
Yes.
Otto.
Yes.
Zelenak.
Yes.
Moko.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Chick.
Yes.
7-0.
Okay. Now is the time in our agenda where we have an opportunity to hear from the public with your petitions and communications. If anyone would like to address the board at this time, please raise your hand and we will allow you to speak. Here we are. Go ahead, Mr. Olney.
Adam Only, 9315 Lakewood Court, Whitmore Lake, Michigan. Just looking over the agenda, I see there's no supervisor's report, and there is also no DDA report. Both would have been created by Supervisor Dignan. It'd be nice to see these written reports, just like the other trustee liaison reports, just for some transparency, see what's going on. Maybe someone would choose to attend a meeting or not attend a meeting based on information that was in that written report instead of just kind of going off the cuff. The others have their reports in there. There was also in the DDA meeting last week, not an actual like official supervisor or board of trustee report. It was just Supervisor Dignan speaking his mind, not a written report. On previous minutes, it was stated by Supervisor Dignan that once training was provided for committees that recording the meetings would be an option. I just don't understand why once trained, they wouldn't be a mandatory. Much easier to go back and check minutes. Others access, just allowing people to have access for it. Once again, it goes back to transparency. There's some minutes from the Parks and Rec that aren't correct, but you can't go back and watch the Parks and Rec meeting to actually clarify what was said. Just gotta, I think this person said it, but actually they didn't. So moving on to the Parks and Rec RFP, it mentions 3 documents: the North Village Master Plan, the Downtown Strategic Action Plan, and the Northfield Township Parks and Rec Master Plan. And then it states that Northfield Township wishes to build on these plans. Then there's an image that says it's from the Downtown Strategic Action Plan. It's not in that image is not sourced correctly. It's from another document. I don't know if it just needs to be corrected on its source or what. And then at the end, there's an image created by McKenna, and it's showing some acreage numbers. I understand that the board voted for this acreage, but nowhere in a meeting did the board actually ask McKenna to create this layout. So once again, we've dealt with this with previous boards, and it seems like we're dealing with it again, that McKenna is working for individual board members and not the board. So I would just like to know who instructed McKenna to create this document or create this image. So just again, transparency. One more thing, J&M, they got a bid in here. It states that the supervisor, treasurer, and public safety director were in agreement on recommending extending the contract based on longevity, cost, satisfaction of service, and supporting local businesses. The board has a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to get additional bids on this. I get you don't put it out every year, but when you do, you need to get other bids. J&M is not the only company that's local. And I know many residents that are unhappy with J&M right now for the damage of, the hard work that many of you as board members put in for that play path. And now it's got to either be redone due to them using a plow truck instead of a brush, which was used on it previously. So I would just ask that you guys look for bids on that, like you would for pretty much any other contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olney. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the board at this time? Not seeing any others. We'll move on to board clarification. So let's see here. So the document that was contained within from McKenna was a product of an email that came from Mrs. Chick to McKenna. McKenna received the document, received an email from Ms. Chick, and they had contacted me about that document. I had instructed McKenna that the board had previously taken action and provided direction and chosen a direction to negotiate with Livonia Builders on a portion of that property, and that the board had also taken action on delineating 10 to 12 acres as a park. In doing that, Julie said, well, I will remove all development plans since there's not an actual site plan for it, and create a bubble map. And I said, that would be great because no one can look at a document and guess what's 10 to 12 acres. Said this gives people an idea of what 10 to 12 acres is. I appreciate it, Julie. Thank you for your time. So she created that document, but it was spurred from an email from Ms. Chick that was sent to McKenna directly. All right, that's all I have is Ms. Chick. You're muted, Ms. Chick. No one can hear you.
Want to make a couple of corrections. First, I wanted to speak to Mr. Olney's comment about the DDA report. Actually, I had noticed that it was not in the packet as well. So I did ask Ms. Olney to send those minutes to me, and I did forward them to the board. Too late for them to come to the packet, but they are in your email. Number two, I did send an email to to Julie. I absolutely did not anywhere in that email ask her to create a map. I asked her 2 questions regarding the map that was in the RFP that you're looking at today and its impact on the planning for that area if it was approved by the board. The second question was about something totally different, 3 lots on Main Street. Never once did I ask her to create a map at all. And I would not have asked her to make that map because that is not the map that the board has approved It's not the map that's approved in the synthesis plan for exactly the 10 to 12 acres that we're looking at. But I'm going to make those comments when we get to the RFP. I actually have about a page and a half of comments on that. So to be correct, I did not ask McKenna to create any kind of a map, period. And I will forward that email to all of the board members as well, so that they can see what I did ask her and her response.
Thank you, Ms. Chick. No one said you instructed her to create a map. I said you sent her an email and she contacted me with questions about things, and I instructed her that those two things, the exact things the board directed, be done. And it was her recommendation that a bubble map be created that did not have a site plan on it. So that's clarity. Anyone else have any comments? Yes, Ms. Zellner.
I did not pull out the fire department report, but I want to congratulate the fire department, all the men and women for serving us for 75 years, and for Chief Wagner being our chief and having such an outstanding department. So thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Zellner. Hey, Chief. Awesome. All right, anybody else have any comments? Seeing none, we'll go on. The new business. First item on the agenda is consideration of the liability insurance contract renewal. Page 103 of your packet, if you're digital with us. Oh. As you know, this has been coming up for a renewal. We are currently operating, and the board has to decide whether or not we want to renew it or whether we want to go out for bid. I mean, there's only, what, 2 or 3 companies that provide liability insurance but it's time to consider it, whether or not we're going to. I mean, they've been good for us. They have definitely fulfilled their obligation and service to us under the policy. Yes, Ms. Zelena.
So considering that we don't have a township manager, is it possible to just renew it for 1 year and then in the process go out for bid?
Yeah, I think it is.
I mean, I guess
Yeah,
that
the
would be my
renewal-
recommendation
renewal
at this point.
is from July 1st to July 1st.
Mhm. Okay, oh yeah, I see. Well, but then it's a 3-year policy period, so I'm,
Right, the 3-year policy period is from 2018 to 2021.
right, so it tells me that it's coming up, and I find it just slightly confusing. Are we renewing it for 1 year or are we renewing it for 3
For
years?
3 years. Yeah, that was my concern too.
So, so I guess in retrospect, I think if we can, again, considering that we don't have a township manager and we're going to be seeking one, I would just ask them if we could renew it for 1 year and then go out for bid in the process.
You want to make that in a form of a motion?
I can do that. I make a motion that we renew the commercial insurance or liability insurance for 1 year. And then in the meantime, go out for bid for a 3-year policy period.
I'll support.
Okay, there's a motion by Zelnick, supported by Otto. Discussion on the motion.
I just have some discussion on it. Are we sure, like if I mean, I do have some questions.
Yep.
Looking at, I think the bonding, which is on page 14. Do we need to bond the front desk in the building / assistant, building department assistant at all, since that position does take cash?
We should bond anybody that takes cash.
So anyway, that's one question I had. My apologies for not getting them to you sooner, Mr. Supervisor. So that's one thing I would like to look into, is to see if we shouldn't include that position.
Okay.
And I know that there is the statutory limits of like the $25,000, and I'm just not sure how it's determined that the deputy who really does the cash receipting mostly isn't like the same limit. So that was just a question. Like I would think, and even the administrative assistant to the township manager also takes cash.
Correct.
So, and actually, when I say take cash, we do limit the number of people that take cash, and we do have separate cash drawers, so that each person that is taking cash, we can monitor that. I would just think that they should have some sort of bonding for those two positions, and if basically is 15,000 adequate. So there's no question on that one.
We'll go to Miss Otto and then Miss Chick.
So I was going to bring up the assistant to the township manager as being part of this because she does accounts payable. She deals with checks. She takes some money as well as at the front desk. I was also wondering about the controller because they are responsible for the books. And while they don't take in money, they are responsible for recording.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you're there, Mr. Supervisor, are you not?
What's that?
I said, you're there, Mr. Supervisor, are you not?
Yes.
Well, I mean, you're the
I'm not-
signer of contracts. That's why you would be bonded. So
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I was very surprised we didn't have the controller in here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So
Controller
anyway,
doesn't have any interaction with the public, though. That's, I think, why.
well, we can, yeah. Anyway,
Well, the public bonding, I don't think has to do with public. It has more to do with making sure that if there was any,
It's about exposure to liability.
right. And your controller would be exposed to liability if she did not make the right allocations in the books. She didn't adjust things right. She didn't budget things accordingly to what the board has agreed upon in their minute. I think anybody that touches the financials should be bonded.
How much would you like her to be bonded for?
Well, if the treasurer is up to 25, then the controller should be
I would think.
at the same.
I guess, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to understand how they determine the bonding
Right.
limits, because I believe statutorily for the county, I have to be at the 25,000 to issue and sign so that they can issue the warrant, and information as such is my understanding on why I actually do have a higher limit, but I'm not sure I can. So I'd like to understand their proposed limit and how that comes about. As the deputy clerk also does sign checks, and so I'd just like to understand that more about, is it truly statutorily driven? So these are what the statute says. So that's the only question I have on that.
And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because this is sitting on the township manager's desk for a great deal of time with nothing being done.
Right.
Right, Ms. Zelenak, anything else?
Let's see here. No, I just want to make sure, who does the asset to identify all the assets, and is that updated yearly?
That's a good question.
You know,
that
like
I do not have an answer to.
I'm thinking when we go by, and I know Mr. Wagner's on the teleconferences, when we go buy a vehicle, I'm sure he has to get a proof of insurance to be able to pick it up. And then does, at that point in time, if it's replacing or if we sell a vehicle, does he report that to the insurance? And do we come in and take any sort of how often do we do like an inventory of our assets? Is it at the beginning of each policy? Is it annually? That part I'm unfamiliar. I would like to know more information on.
Mr. Wagner, can you address that from a police and fire perspective?
Yeah, anytime we purchase a vehicle for police or fire, we do go through the process of making sure it's insured. But I believe Yvette does this, maybe not annually, but every now and then I get emails from her wanting to update. And I just recently did update the list of assets in the police and fire department. And
Okay.
I believe it was Yvette that asked me to do that. So whether the manager asked her to do it, I'm not sure, but
Okay.
I believe that's how that went.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Ms. Zelnok, anything else, or can we go to Ms. Chick?
Yeah, you can go. Yeah, you can go to Ms. Chick. Thank you.
Ms. Chick, go ahead, please.
So I think that before we decide who should or should not get bonded, that we get a firm answer from whoever we need to ask, if it's the attorney or the insurance company, and what those typical rates are, so that we're either not paying for someone who doesn't need to be, or we're not doing somebody that should be.
I agree. Okay, anyone else have any comments? We do have a motion on the floor. I guess the question is would we like that motion to continue to stand on the floor, or would you like to withdraw that motion?
I mean, what I would like to just add as a friendly amendment to my own motion to say to ensure that the bonding information is adequate for the front desk person, as well as the administrative assistant and the controller.
Okay,
Do we
If it-
have time on this, or can we get those questions answered and then approve it?
Right.
What is,
well,
the-
there was a time caveat. Let's see here.
And I'll support Lenore's friendly change.
Hang on just a second.
That's my only question is when does this insurance expire? So we don't lapse.
it's July.
July, but I think it may auto renew.
And is that an auto renew, Mr. Supervisor, for 3 years, or is it auto renew for 1 year?
Hang on just a second. Got that here.
Did I miss that?
So we have time to get answers before we actually have to respond.
Well,
That's what I'm hoping.
that's that was brought forth 3 months ago.
Right, but we have till July? Yes, no?
No, I
No.
think we have till April 1st,
Okay, thank you.
which gives us enough time to get the answers that we need and bring it back at the next meeting. It
Okay,
certainly does give us enough time to do.
So if that's the case, if you'd like to bring it back, I can withdraw my motion. And I guess the
Great.
three items I would like to see is, can we just renew it for 1 year? Is the bonding adequate? And how often do they request the assets get updated? Those are my 3 questions. And again, Mr. Supervisor, I should have sent those earlier to you. My apologies for that.
I appreciate that. Okay, anyone else have any questions? And we'll bring that back then at the next meeting in March.
The only thing that I would note is that while we were looking at a very low premium in 2021, I didn't know what our premium would be for the next 3 years or next year. If it was brought
Right,
back.
and a minor claim. And I'm sure that has some impact, but I don't think it's,
Right.
I don't think it's a measurable impact.
I think there's some kind of calculation. They said if your premiums, I can't remember what page that was, is they do a loss ratio, and then it would go up a certain percentage depending on that loss ratio, and they
But we
evaluate
did
that.
very well in 2020, so as far as our loss ratio, but I would think if we just do 1 year, I would like the board to understand that the premium may be higher just because we're doing a year.
We'll get both dollar amounts.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be good. Yeah.
That would be
Yeah, I
good.
think on page 27, it talks about you're right, it has a 3-year rate guarantee. And then it talks about how the rates are determined for the policy and that you have to be within that loss ratio calculation.
Yeah.
Here's the formula.
So you're right. So it's a 3-year rate guarantee. And as Ms. Otto has indicated that if we only go for 1 year, then I imagine that obviously guarantees not there.
Right.
Correct. All right. Any other questions on this one? Okay, move on. Next item on the agenda is on page 154 of your packet. If folks are looking at the digital packet, it's a consideration of a RFP for the Northfield Community Park Planning and Design Services, which is the hard work of our Parks and Rec folks.
Okay.
Otto?
Yep. So what I wanted to do is we provided a draft of the RFP. I know that there are some changes that will need to be made. One of the things that I wanted to include is that while we, and I'm just going to go through this, the first page, page by page, because I know people had changes that they wanted to identify. But in the first page, we did not include the beach on this. So I do want to include where it says in the third paragraph, water overlook. I would like to include with beach. So we can keep consistent with our surveys, what residents have asked for. And that was the only change that I had in that one, on that page. On the second page, I didn't have any changes.
If you're gonna go page by page, can we ask the board members if they have
Yep,
changes on those? Okay.
you can if you want. Did you have any changes on page 1?
Not a change, I think just a comment. I don't know if you want to put it into, I actually sent it to you already, but just so the board is aware. We initially motioned for an RFP for the park. So we have also included in the RFP proposal or requesting a proposal for connecting trails outside of the park area. So in my thought is that we should ask for 2 separate proposals within the RFP, one for the park and one for the connecting trails, so that we're not getting one figure for all of it and we don't know which portion is the park portion and which portion is the trail portion. Park is going to be the priority for the public, and I would think that the trails, although they're important and I'm all excited about that we're doing it, would be secondary. I would not want to sacrifice anything that we could have at the park for connecting trails, depending on the money. So that was just my thought, is to just separate those somehow. And
I would not do it on the first page. We could do it on the scope of work.
okay,
In the scope of work, we could do it in there.
okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, the first page just talks about summary. That's why I said we wouldn't do it on the first page.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything on the first page?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Otto.
On the second page, I do not have any changes or recommendations. If anybody has anything. I did want people to understand that we are requiring the person who fills out the RFP that they have to go by the Northville Village Plan Master Plan, the Downtown Strategic Plan, and the Northfield Parks and Recreation Master Plan. There's 3 documents that they have to work with. On page 3, I am recommending that we remove the map at this time. And actually, the source for this was not the Downtown Strategic Plan. It was the North Village Plan, and it was scenario 2. But I do recommend that we just remove it at this time. And if we do create a map that is approved by the board, this can always be provided to the group at the designer prior to contracting or as part of their contract.
I would just like to comment that really all they need to know is it's to tell 10 to 12 acre area and 50%.
Yeah, because they're not really designing it yet. This is
No.
just for them to provide dollars for what it would take for us to design a 10 to 12 acre park.
Yeah. And my concern was showing that if the public looks at it, they're going to think that's actually the design of the park, and it's not, because we haven't voted on anything yet.
I'm
Totally agree.
gonna rise up. I disagree on that. We did agree on something. We did agree, and we gave direction to negotiate with Livonia Builders, who has called back and expressed an interest in the area that we designated with them. So
Right.
we
But
did
what we-
agree to something.
Right, what we designated was the synthesis plan, not the plan that's in the map or in the RFP.
Right, well, right, the one with the apartment buildings or whatever those are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
Right.
I just think it's cleaner just to leave it out.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
But I guess Mr. Supervisor, I'm
Yes.
confused, like, we're asking them to design a park or RFP for a park, but we're not telling
No,
them
we're not asking them to design the park yet. What they're
What do
doing is we're asking them to apply to design a park. That's what they're applying for, that they will be the designers of choice to design.
Okay, and they know that they have to, okay, so I guess that's good to clarify. I'm sorry,
No, that's okay.
I didn't catch that, and actually, I'm not really sorry, but I didn't catch that in there. So we're just saying, we have a 10 to 12 acre parcel in this vicinity. We'd like to have you do an RFP for being able to design a park. And
Right.
while you do that, look at the North Village Master Plan, look at the Downtown Strategic Plan, which I'm not so sure on that one myself, and the Northfield Township Parks and Recreation Master Plan to get some input on what the community is looking for. And then
Right.
in the meantime, we will actually try to define the parameters of the park.
Right.
Right.
The planner actually said to add into the RFP that the boundaries haven't been determined, period. So.
Okay, all right,
And
so,
the landscape architects you get that will apply though, I mean, landscape architects can be very specific.
Sure.
So if they don't know what elements you're dealing with, if they don't know if they're dealing with, abutting a highway, or if they don't know if they're dealing with the beach, or that they don't know if they're dealing with a major roadway going through the middle of the park. I mean, they need to have some parameters around that to understand whether or not it's something that's within their wheelhouse of what they would want to bid on. You can't just say, take a 10 acre parcel of land and that's what you're going to develop it on. They got to have some idea. And I think through the synthesis plan or the strategic action plan and the North, the Parks and Rec plan, they should be able to get some sense and idea of that scope. But yeah, I mean, you've got to be able to give them some sense of scope, but even if they look at the 23-acre site, that's, I mean,
Well,
think
the
we can-
North Village Master Plan has everything in it. So if they just look at the North Village Master Plan, they've got their guide.
In which scenario are we asking them to look at?
We're
1, 2,
not.
and 3,
No,
just in general? And will they also
No,
know?
you can't say that, Janet, because 1 and 3 are not 10 to 12 acres.
no,
Correct.
and
Right.
I'm saying we can't ask them to look at a specific one. They can only look at the synthesis, not the synthesis plan, the North Village Master Plan. And in there, the synthesis plan is the one that was chosen as the best option. So that would be their guide. We can always change the boundaries, but that at least they can see all the infrastructure around it, where the streets are, what's abutting, where the beach is, the size of the beach area. It's better than,
so should that map be included then?
well, that was my plan. Either you put no map in or you put the synthesis map plan in.
I would prefer not to put a map in at this time.
Okay,
I-
that's cool.
I would agree. I would agree.
I'm going
I
to
think
defer to
that
Parks and
they make a
Recreation.
decision.
We've
Right.
asked Parks and Rec to do this. I'm going to defer to
Right.
their expertise and knowledge. So
I'll
Parks
second
and
that.
Rec, yes, this is not for us to do. This is for them to do and for us to send out.
Well,
Okay, so.
It really is. That's why we've asked, that's why we have Parks and Rec, is to do things like this.
right, but it has to match the master plan. They can't just pick any plan in there, so.
I would prefer to keep it out.
Thank you.
Ms. Zelenak?
I agree.
So, and will they also know that we are in negotiations with Livonia Builders as well?
Well, I have a question about that as well, because the last board said that we should negotiate with, no, I'm sorry, negotiate a purchase agreement with Livonia Builders. This board has not been directed to negotiate with anybody yet. That has not come
That's
up
right.
yet. Right, so, but, and I was also told, just aside, if I can put it in there real quickly, when we did talk about negotiating with Livonia Builders for a purchase agreement, the attorney said that we could either negotiate and then accept a purchase agreement, or accept the purchase agreement and negotiate the exact parameters afterwards. So this board has to decide if we want to actually move forward with Livonia Builders.
I
I
would,
do not think personally.
Hang
Okay.
Hang on. The action of the board was to negotiate. Unless we direct not to negotiate, that's the board, that's the direction the township's moving in.
Okay, so then for.
So,
I'm-
and that is actually the course that I've been following. I was working with Mr. Ains on it. Mr. Ains is no longer here. And that is the direction that we've been going down. So there's.
Yeah, but we
if
need
it's-
to.
if the board has,
Go ahead. I'm
hang
sorry.
on, let me finish. If the
I'm sorry.
board does not want to negotiate with Livonia Builders, we need to make that vote, and we need to tell them that we're not interested and not go down that path, because I can tell you things are progressing.
Okay, so my comment is, if this board is going to continue with Livonia Builders, the board needs to create a subcommittee that advertises the fact that they're going to meet, yes, sir. Otherwise, it's
No.
ex parte, yes. The
Well,
board needs
can I
to,
say something? This is not what we're here to talk about.
Oh,
though.
I know.
Not what we're here to talk about.
Okay, we'll get to it later then.
So I'm gonna
asked
go
a
back
question.
to, can I go back to your question, Lenore? If you look
Yes.
on page 2, and this is what I want to do, is I don't want to include a name of who's interested in it.
Mhm,
Because I don't want to taint the waters
right,
or anything. It is in paragraph, if you start from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's in the 6th
Yep.
paragraph that we do talk about. The goal is to sell a portion of North Village site for development under the construction of Northfield Township Community Park on the remainder of the site. And I think that's enough to be said as far
Okay.
as development.
okay, got it. Good enough, thank you.
I mean, at this point, we don't know what's going to go in there.
Okay,
know
good, yep,
what's
good
gonna
enough.
go.
So basically, it's the 10 to 12 acres that they need to concentrate on.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So in On 3, if we talk about the scope of work, and I'm trying to figure out, Janet, where your comments would be put in.
On which page? Oh, okay.
It starts on page 3, the scope of work.
I,
We could include it in number 2 on page 4 under phase 3. So that's where I think it could. Or under phase 1, develop preliminary suggestions for parks and trail plans.
I
And
would,
we explain that the trail plans, we need to have separate the park trail and then out or connecting trails as
connecting
2
trails.
projects.
So number 2, under scope of, or phase 1.
Mhm.
Yep, that works.
Could you repeat that, Ms. Otto?
So I'm saying that the trails will include, or the detail for trails will
And
include
what
2
page? Yeah, what page are you
phases.
on?
And
Are
it
you
would
on
be
page-
under page 3, under
Okay.
phase 1. And
Point 2. Okay.
so details of trails will include 2 phases. Trails within the park.
I would say in connecting trails.
And connecting trails. Yes, thank you.
So you are asking for the RFP to include trails within the park? And then do they have to bid on trails with outside the park? Or do they have to include trails? from
We would
outside
like
the
to
park?
have it as a separate cost. I think that's
Okay.
what Janet was
Okay.
saying, that she'd like to have it.
But,
as-
and maybe they don't want to do trails outside the park, right? They could
And
just
maybe
say,
they don't.
I'm just doing the 10 to 12 acres. I'm going to incorporate the trails within the park and any connecting, basically we're asking as well as any connecting trails that the park would point to, or
And
it would be
Right.
an intersection. Is that
And the
correct?
reason why, because it was asked if we should exclude, we should have the park and trails separate. And I said, no, we can't. We met with the DNR on March 3rd. And you have, whatever's in that park has to be part of the design plan. So if you're including trails, trails have to be in there.
Seems really hung up on trails.
Yes, they are.
Love trails. They
Well,
love
right
anything.
now, yeah, right now trails are a big thing between the county, the DNR, and everybody's hot on trails. That's my understanding. Seems to be a lot of money for trails.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what they said too when we were talking with them.
Yep.
And just FYI, I will give an update when we get to board member comments at the end of the meeting on that too. So there's more to come on that. On page 4, under phase 2, again, we did not put beach in there. So when we're identifying the projects that will be possibly put into this design, I did want to include a water overlook with beach in there.
Ms. Otto, I have a question in
Yes.
regards to sunflowers. Sunflowers are very problematic
They are.
when planting sunflowers. They create a real problem when you're dealing with longevity, time that they can plant. They really diminish the soil to a great deal. And I find it interesting to identify a single plant in a landscape design.
I agree.
I mean, I would let the park planners decide what kind of plantings and stuff would go in there. I mean, I think identifying native plantings is one thing, but to call out a specific type of plant or flower or area. I mean, sunflowers are very tough on the soil in the area that they're in. They can only be there for so long, and then they have to be gone a long time before the nutrients are restored to the soil.
Okay, we can remove it.
Yeah, and
That would
actually,
be-
my understanding of the park designers is that they do suggest plantings, types of plantings, because they know what you've got there. Yeah, I agree.
So that Miss Otto, that would have to also be removed on page 1 under
Yeah.
phase 2.
Thank you. Any changes, any other changes under page 4? Okay, then we will go to page 5. I'm gonna see if I have any. Okay, page 5, anything there? The date has to be changed. We're not gonna meet that date. We'll probably give it a longer date. We want to give them at least 3 to 4 weeks to respond.
Is that typical? I mean, 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, that is typical.
Okay.
If we do it today, we would only give somebody 2 weeks to respond. And that's,
Yeah, no, no.
that's not-
I'd go on, yeah, I'd go on the 4-week side myself.
I agree.
Same here.
When do we have to have the info to the DNR for the grants?
Well, the one thing we have to fill out the application as of April 1st. This does not have to, the design doesn't need to be completed. A formal design doesn't need to be completed, not until like September, October. So we do have to have a mock-up design. Say we wanted to have a, I'm just gonna say it. So we have a mock-up of what the 10 acres would look like. We say, okay, we're gonna put a pavilion here, a fitness area here. Here are the trails. Here's the beach. We're gonna put a pier here. Basically what DNR says, you can put it all in there. And if you decide, if you have a designer and they say, okay, pavilion doesn't work well there because blah, 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 or a playscape doesn't work there, or it would be better if you make your trail look this way. All of it can change, but you still have to, develop the sign in accordance to ADA compliance, and you have to have certain things still in there. So that's what they told us.
The elements can move all over the site.
Exactly,
elements
at
are
any
sustained.
time.
Are sustained, and you can't add elements. That was the
Right.
one thing he said. Basically, it's a napkin design. You know, you draw it on a napkin. This is what we want to do. This is where we want to, this is where we're thinking. And then you hand it to them, and that's what goes in with it. And then when it comes back and the designer designs it, as long as you've got the elements there, and they expect those elements will be in your plan.
Yeah, if
So
we decide at one point, and bathrooms. So I want to say that if we decide at one point, we are going to put a huge building in the middle of the park. And we decide that like the next following year, they're not going to approve it. Nobody's never going to approve it. So you have to be consistent with what you've asked for.
So is it better then to put more in?
Yeah, it probably is. If we feel that we need to have a lot in there, you can take out, but you
Or you
can't.
can't add?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. I go for more.
Yeah.
Put
So no
everything on
changes.
that, everything on the list that the people said they wanted.
we're gonna put everything in there that we had in our master plan. So that's what we're doing.
Yep, and then the survey, right, or, yes, very good.
Yeah.
Everything in the park master plan, excellent. Good strategy. Thank you.
So page 6, the only thing that's changing there is the tentative schedule. So if we have to move out March 31st for 2 weeks, say it's like April 15th, I'm just throwing out a date, it throws out all the rest of these dates. Any questions on this page? So I will say, because we have an area here that's reservation of rights. Lenore and I had a conversation. She would like, in my motion, when I'm gonna make a motion to accept this draft as we amend it, and with changes, I am going to say that this, that we have to have the attorney review it and make sure that we are, that we have a legal review and changes, and it's contingent upon that.
Yeah, I think if there's not substantive changes, that Mariah or Mr. Fink could definitely review the revisions of rights and the proposal, and
Yeah.
as long as there's no substantive change, I think a motion could definitely carry forward.
Yeah.
With that.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll add, if I may, to Mr. Dignan, is just the reservations are rights. That was my concern, is to make sure that the attorney reviews that so that the township is fully protected on submitting the RFP and getting the RFPs back, and maybe we don't like any of them and want to make sure we're, again, within our legal rights.
Yeah, I mean, the simple sentence on the 75 Barker Road one, that
Right.
basically gives us the right to do whatever we want, and we're not
Right.
held to anything. Is basically,
Exactly.
I mean, so yeah, and he said that's fine.
That's
long
what
as-
came to mind, is, like, basically, we not accept any of it. So.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's actually what came to mind in that regard, so.
Ms. Otto, would you like
Okay,
to?
so I would like to make a motion to accept the RFP with the changes outlined, and have our attorneys and have it approved for distribution upon contingent upon legal review and changes and
I'll
further.
support.
Motion by Otto and supported by Chick. Any further discussion on the motion? Again, I just want to thank the folks at Parks and our Parks and Rec, and thank Miss Otto for all your guys' hard work. This is great. I'm glad to see this moving forward. Miss Chick, go ahead.
Nope, that was actually my comment. I wanted to thank Mrs. Otto for all the work that she put into the RFP and Parks and Rec and those who contributed to it. And I'm very excited to get this out and get going on in the park area.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
I
Agreed.
do want to make another motion.
Okay,
Well,
Oh, we got to vote, right?
I've got to vote on this
Yeah.
one, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
we have to vote on this one. Miss Manley, will you call the roll?
Chick,
Yes.
Zelenak,
Yes.
Moko,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Manley, yes, Dignan,
Yes.
7-0.
So I would like, because the map has been and the park delineation and development delineation has been a huge topic. I would like to make a motion to form a committee to finalize the boundaries within North Village and Northfield Township Community Park.
I'll support.
The motion by Otto and supported by Chick. Discussion on the motion. Ms. Zelenak?
So who are you recommending being on that committee?
I would not mind it being me. I was thinking Janet, myself, and Ken, but if another board member prefers, if they have more feeling towards it, that would be my recommendation.
Thank you.
And I would suggest the planner has to be part of it as well.
That works too. I like that recommendation, Miss Otto, and your addition, Miss Chick, personally.
But if
Are there
Mr.
other-
Nelson or Mr. Mukal would like to be part of it, I think they should speak up.
Any comment?
I would like to say, I think everything's been up there fluctuating back and forth. Where's the park going to be? Where's development going to be? Yes, set some boundaries. That way, everything's set in stone. All this talk, there's too much what if involved in everything. I mean, I think I'm all for it. You guys do a committee, set the boundaries. Then you can have the park designer design a park where they know where the heck they're going to have it. Is there a perimeter trail or is there not a perimeter trail? You know, is it like this picture on page, 161 shows it split in half. I haven't seen anything like that. No, most everything's got, I just think let's get it done. That's all I got to say. So good. Let's get it done. You guys, I'm all for that board. Get it.
I'm just going to follow up here with Nate. I don't have as much experience with that for sure. I know you three would be much more capable than I in getting this done. And honestly, I'm the same way. Right? The best principle in dealing with anything is some form of action. And having something to look at that's definite and that we can actually make a decision on is probably going to be more helpful moving forward than letting it sit in the air and just continuing to discuss it.
Right.
So I'd like to make a friendly amendment to what I just asked for, is to form a committee with Janet, myself, Ken, and the planner to finalize the boundaries and to make recommendation for board approval. It shouldn't be this committee that finalizes it. It
I'll
should be,
support that.
okay.
Are there other comments? So I have a couple comments myself. One is I don't think the committee has enough information to be able to meet its objectives. We still have a 2-acre swing that is undecided, which is huge. I mean, you're talking 20% of the size of the park is unable to be defined at this point. I don't think the committee can make that decision. I think the board has left that open. We've been negotiating for 6 weeks with a developer in regards to an area that was disseminated to the board a month and a half ago that showed what a 50-unit housing development would look like on that property. That has been the good faith negotiation that has been moving forward. So I think that this committee doesn't have the answers it needs to be able to answer that question. We have again, a direction and decision by this board to negotiate that. If the board does not want to negotiate that, the board needs to make a decision not to negotiate at this point in time. But we've been spending the better part of 2 months working on that. So, I don't think that you can, I think when you develop a committee, the committee has to have a clear objective and it has to be able to achieve its objective. I don't think that we have defined the parameters enough for the committee to meet its objectives. And because of that, I would not want to serve on that committee. So with that being said, Mr. Nelson and then Ms. Chick.
Just a question, Ken. What I'm seeing going on here is maybe just two different things that are kind of happening separately. And it would probably be good to have one more finalized on paper rather than the other. And I think the fact of the matter is we've been negotiating the building contract right now, and that's what we've been working on, and that's what we've been focusing on. Maybe it'd be good to. How much time do we have on all this is my big question. And secondly, would we be able to delay this further if we can have something definite from the builder, from our negotiations, as to what we will have, as to what would be on the table for us to work with, so we can start working on making a more definite plan.
Are you talking about money, or are you talking about space, or both?
I'm talking about both would be nice, but space is probably the most important thing right now, as we don't really need a completely final plan or anything like that. Just being nice to know what space we have to work with.
Well, we defined that 10 to 12 acres, but we didn't define it exactly. So is it 10, is it 11, or is it 12, or is it 10 and a half? Miss Chick, and then Miss Autumn.
That actually, in my understanding of this committee, is to define that. So, I mean, we can decide what size we want it to be. Right now, I think we need to focus on the park. In the past, Livonia Builders has says they'll put houses wherever you want us to put them. So we determine the size of the park, whatever's left over, if they want to build on it, fine. I have a problem with us being concerned about how much room Livonia Builders wants to help us determine what the size of the park is. The park's a priority, I would think. But I don't think it's all that difficult. So the committee meets, they look at the synthesis plan, not the synthesis plan, the North Village master plan. They define the 10 to 12 acres. They say, okay, this is what our park's going to be. Livonia Builders or whoever, this is what's left over. What can you do for us?
Okay, Miss Otto. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you done, Miss Chick?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, Miss Otto.
So I
And then
guess
I'll go
the reason why I made that, I made the motion was because we had a draft in our packet for discussion. And as far as the North Village Park delineation, and this was a bubble map. I figured, why don't we take that and start working from it? If this was a draft for discussion, why don't we take it the next step further? Why is it just something that is put out there and not at least supported by a committee to make a recommendation?
Okay. Do you believe that's something a committee needs to do, or can we do that ourselves as a board? I mean, we've talked about this.
Well,
I mean, we have kind of killed this subject over the last 4.5 years. We've talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. It's time to do some action.
Right, but this is a new board, so we're trying to take action, and we should not delineate a park boundaries without a planner involved. So a committee with a planner, it should.
Well, I think McKenna did write this.
Planners
This was
involved.
a planner.
Right, but they should be part of the discussion, because if I'm looking at this and I say this is a better plan and they think it's the better plan, which by the way, they told me they think it's the best option, then we should consider it. And we should consider the other map too. And it might actually come out looking like the other map, but at least we have to have the discussion, reasonable discussion, give our reasons why, give the planner gets an input on it, bring it to the board and say, this is what the committee decided. Do you like it or not? That's action to me.
Miss Manley.
Yeah, we haven't gotten an update on Livonia Builders in quite a while. So from what you've been telling us, I mean, to me, that's news to me that, you know, we're more actively pursuing it. Because I know we've been asking the previous manager and we've never heard anything. So
Well,
I guess giving us some kind of update would be nice. So we know what we're putting first. Are we putting the builders first? Are we putting the park first? So one knows what the other's doing.
Right.
Well,
And the board never directed anybody on this board to meet or talk to Livonia Builders about negotiating. And that should have been the first step before anybody talked to them if they did. We only directed Mr. Ains to contact them to find out if they were still interested, and we found out they did. Since then, the board hasn't directed anybody to do anything. So we need to get that established.
And the previous
Well,
manager never let us know what was going on. So.
Right.
Okay, that's with the township manager. The township manager was engaged in discussing things with them. And that with his departure, the conversation has proceeded. And, you don't negotiate in public.
No, but you direct somebody the board should direct somebody to do the negotiation in the absence of a township manager.
Had a
We have
motion?
not done that.
Why don't we do that?
We can
Okay.
do that
Is there a
now.
motion?
But
There's a motion on the floor, though.
but there is a
first.
motion on the floor for,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So we need to
Okay.
vote on the committee, but Mr. Dignan, are you still willing to
This is-
serve or no?
No.
Okay,
Ms.
Mr.
Elmore?
Nelson or Moko or Ms. Manley?
Or Lenore.
I'm,
Or Lenore?
I do have a
Ms.
question.
Eleanor had her hand up.
I do have a question, Mr. Dignan. So you had indicated you didn't think there was enough information to delineate the park. So what information do you think is missing?
Right.
The decision on the size. A committee can't make that decision. Only the board can make that decision.
Right, so, okay, so it's between 10 and 12 acres. So
Okay,
the
but-
committee could come back with 10 or 12 or both,
Or 11.
and, or 11, and they could have 3 scenarios. So and then.
Kind of like in the synthesis planning,
Yeah,
Exactly.
kind of like the synthesis plan, and they could say that, because one thing on the bubble map that seems to be missing is the
Commercial.
commercial for the piece alongside El Dante. So that might take away some of the information. So they could come back with alternatives, because again, the board said 10 or 12. I guess maybe next time, because I think to me, the decision was 10 or 12 because of potentially the commercial, potentially, maybe, recommending that some of the commercial go to a builder because it's more conducive to them. So I would say that it's 10 to 12, and I would be looking for the committee to say, we recommend 10, or here's scenario 1 with 10, here's scenario 2 with 12, here's scenario 3 with 11, or 10 and a half, whatever is feasible. So you say that, but the board
that's
has
different than
directed,
the motion that was made.
yeah, so
The motion that was made, set up a committee to delineate the park boundaries.
And bring back a
And-
recommendation.
To
That's
bring
all.
back a recommendation. That
We don't get-
recommendation
Yeah.
can be exactly what Lenore said.
Right.
right,
That's
so,
very different than what was.
okay.
Okay,
So my thought is that they would bring back a recommendation to the board to approve.
Yeah.
That's the way I understood it too.
Yes.
Yes, so
And
that's the way, that
Who
they
would like
wouldn't
to-
just,
Right.
That committee would not make the final decision. They
it would
would,
come back to the board for approval.
Yes.
right. That's why I asked.
I guess what was the motion again, Ms. Otto?
That a committee to finalize the boundaries, to make recommendation to the board for
Okay.
final. For
So
approval.
maybe there was a misunderstanding, and maybe recommendation didn't get in the initial motion, maybe it did. I was
I can
thinking,
take the word out, final.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
committee
'cause it
can't
would just-
finalize it.
yeah, right. It would be just a recommendation, and I would think there might be multiple scenarios. And
Is
that's.
there a deadline for your recommended committee?
2 weeks.
I would hope for the next board meeting, we would, or at least the next 2 board meetings.
I would give a-
And
Yourself,
in the
I would
first,
give-
first one in April.
Yeah, it would give, to me, my thought would be to give yourself or the committee some time. I would give it like 4 weeks, up to, 4 weeks. And if you have it done by the next board meeting, great. But I wouldn't say in 2 weeks.
yeah, because the board packet's due in a week.
Right,
For the
right,
next-
right. I mean, I think we sometimes forget that. We think, well, it's 2 weeks, but really it's 1 week. Because everything really would be due in a week, as Mr. Dignan had just said, and we forget that, I think, sometimes.
We do.
You think 2 weeks, well, it's not really 2 weeks, it's 1 week.
Exactly.
So, anyway,
All right. Does anybody need any clarification on the motion?
So are we
So
going to
Ms.
have a third board member? Anybody?
Are you participating, Mr. Dignan, or are you not?
I'm stepping back from this.
Does
Okay.
anybody else want to participate?
Can always get a third DDA member.
Or another Park and Rec?
Rack.
I would, if anything, I would, mean,
Jennifer
could
will
get-
probably would
I
want.
think- I'd like to see some kind of balance. So we have a Park and Rec already.
We
I'll
have a
jump
per-
on it.
Thank you,
Okay,
Nate.
thank you, Nate.
Okay. Any other clarification? If none,
4 weeks, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's kind of really like 3.
Okay.
Well, it could be 4 depending on how the calendar works, but 3 to get it to the board packet, but it might be one of those odd months.
I'd like to make a motion that was brought up a minute ago, then. I'd like to let Ken
Can we-
continue. Oh, sorry.
Can we do that
Hang
one
on.
later? We'll
Let's
do
make-
that the third.
Ms. Manley, can you call the roll?
Yep, we're good. Chick,
Yes,
Nelson,
Yes.
Zelenak,
Yes,
Moko,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Manley, yes, Dignan,
No.
6-1.
good luck, Lisa, on figuring out that motion.
Mr. Moko?
This is where I can make a motion, right?
Right.
Correct.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to let Ken, since we directed the manager who's no longer here, to let Ken, the supervisor, continue talks with Livonia Builders, so they're not just swinging in the wind.
Okay.
Can I
Or,
propose a friendly amendment?
but
I'm sorry, Mr.
Yeah.
Nelson?
Can I propose an amendment?
Well, hang on. The motion hasn't been supported yet.
I supported it.
Support by Otto. Okay, Mr. Nelson?
Friendly amendment with regular updates to the board as to what's going on in the negotiating process.
Yeah. before and after the
Exactly.
meetings.
When we can.
No, before and
There's a-
after the
there's a
meetings.
caveat to that, when you can.
Yes, yes.
There's, yeah. Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
I have discussion. And in particular,
You've
Mr.
lost your
Nelson,
video.
oh, sorry. Did I lose my, yeah, no, I know I lost my video. I'm trying to.
We can hear
um,
you.
Yep, so
can hear you.
I'm trying to put my cord to recharge my battery, so sorry about that.
Fine.
I have a question, Mr. Nelson. So what type of updates were you looking, just to say that there was a meeting? I mean, again, I think we have to be careful on what we say about the meeting.
Obviously, I'm not looking for some formal, drawn out, lengthy process here. I'm just looking on, there's something happening here, and we know we need to know what's going on, or this is happening. That's all I'm really looking for. I just want to know what's happening.
Okay.
That contacts have been made and that the process is moving.
Yes.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you for that.
Fair
clarification.
enough.
And then
Absolutely.
do we want any other board members to participate?
No.
Okay.
You have to be very careful about talking to developers without board knowledge or even with board knowledge, because you could wind up recusing yourself because you're too involved.
Okay, just wanted clarification on that. Thank you.
Ms. Manley, will you call?
Wait, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
In the interim, depending on how long these negotiations go with Livonia Builders, if they decide to participate, that if we acquire a township manager, that the township manager be involved in those negotiations.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely.
Good?
Good.
All right,
Call the roll,
Manley.
please.
yes, Dignan,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Yes.
Moko,
Yes.
Zelenak,
Yes,
7-0.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the LPC request. I'd like to make a motion that we request the Planning Commission to consider the adoption of a purchase development rights ordinance.
Can,
Can we
restate
change that
one? Yeah.
to draft? That,
Consider,
To draft a development for PDR, right?
consider a purchase of development rights ordinance.
Well, we want are we asking the planning commission to create one or just consider one? It's two different things.
Okay.
So
Okay.
either way, we vote on it at the end, don't
We
we?
vote on it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I'll make a motion to instruct the planning commission to
can I help you out there,
with the
Mr.
recommended
Supervisor?
draft of yeah, please, Ms. Zelenak, go right ahead, please.
So I would
I'm
like
going
to
to
make a
withdraw all my
motion.
motions handed to Ms. Zelenak.
No, not this one. I actually was prepared for this one, Ken. I would make a motion that the board direct the planning commission to draft a purchase development rights PDR ordinance and bring it back to the board for consideration.
Support.
Did you write that?
Yes, she did.
I
Thinking
did
that wasn't off
actually.
the cuff. I'm thinking that wasn't off the cuff. No.
It was
All
not,
right.
Mr. Dignan, it was not off the cuff.
it's where you
So-
put your consideration at.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
No, it was not off the cuff, so I just was prepared to make that motion and
Thank you, Ms. Zelenak.
You're
And
welcome.
that was supported by Ms. Chick. Is there any discussion on the motion?
my apologies for overruling the motion. I just,
You're fine, Ms. Zelenak. I
Okay,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
You know, what this allows the board, I mean, what this allows the township to do is in the event that there are grants out there, many of the grants relating to PDR do require that the township have adopted a purchase of development rights ordinance. Beyond that, the ordinance itself being adopted does not obligate the township under any other circumstances.
That's
So
correct.
I just wanted to provide that clarity for the public, anyone that may have been interested. If there's no other discussion, I can ask Miss Manley to call the roll. Miss Manley?
All right, Zelenak,
Yes,
Milko,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Dignan,
Yes.
Manley, yes. Nelson,
Yes.
Chick,
Yes.
7-0.
Excellent. All
Excellent.
right, your next,
thank you.
Thank you.
and the next item on the agenda is the consider fire department request for a grant match for extraction equipment.
Oh, we missed number 4.
Oh, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Before.
Yes, we did. Consider McKenna Associates offer to provide a joint training session for planning commission and ZBA members.
Yeah, actually, it was brought up to ask the board members who probably need to get a little bit of learning on this as well. Anybody I think could be able to join the ZBA, the PC, and the Board of Trustees. This actually came up a while ago, and when I was meeting with Mary, checking in on her, she mentioned it to me again and said that no one has followed up on this. So I followed up with Ms. Konecki, and she sent a proposal. Everybody has a proposal. It's $600 an hour. It could be a 2 or 3 hours session, depending on how long we want to have them speak to us. But it's really, really good information, and it's really helpful in the board members and the ZBA members and planning commission members to be aware of exactly what goes on at the planning commission and the ZBA, so that you have better knowledge on how to make good decisions and understand the information. So I did not put an amount in. So if it's a 3-hour session, you're looking at $1,800 for both Ms. Konecki and Ms. Krishnan to give the talks. And they do this seminars in other venues as well. So they're very well educated on the issues. And depending on the number of attendees, you would be paid the same as you would if you were attending a regular meeting. And so I don't think it would be more than $3,900 if 21 people showed up. So
So, is there a motion?
Is there a motion?
Not yet.
Well,
I was just
'cause-
kind of explaining, so,
Okay,
okay.
because when I look at the fee and schedule, it says we propose an hourly not to exceed fee of $600.
Right.
So, and this is two planners for a 3 to 4 hour long training session available. So my understanding was,
It was 1,200.
no,
Oh, I-
actually, I was understanding it. Oops, there I go, falling. I was understanding that it was $600.
Yes,
So,
that's how I read it.
and that it would be
Per
offered.
hour.
Pardon me?
Not per hour.
It's an hourly, we propose an hourly not to exceed fee of $600.
So it's $600 an hour.
Right,
That's what I'm reading it as.
okay, instruction by 2 planners for a 3 to 4 hour long training, got it.
Okay.
So it's 1,800, so I wish they would have just said, we think it's going to be $1,800.
Yeah.
And those,
So, okay,
yeah. So the board members, the ZBA members and the planning commission members that attend will get paid for a regular meeting. And so, so at the maximum, it wouldn't be more than 3,900.
got it. I guess, yeah, okay, I get it now. Yeah, it was a little convoluted. I missed the continuation. So you're saying up to, how much was that?
I don't know, more than 3,900
More north than 3,900, and that's if it goes to 3 to 4 hours, or
if it goes
and
3
that-
hours, yeah.
So, and that's paying the ZBA members and paying the planning commission members.
And board members if everybody shows up, but we can't make it mandatory because
Right.
some people
But
can't.
board members don't get paid, right? It's a
It
flat
depends.
fee. It's a
We're
flat
not-
fee no matter.
I
how
don't
much-
think you
That's
can
right.
have 4 board members at this at all.
Well, it'd
You
have to be a
can.
regular scheduled meeting.
It'd be-
You
Yeah,
can?
yeah,
Yeah, you just have to publish it.
yeah.
You just
Okay.
have to
We've had
publish it.
joint meetings before with the board.
Okay.
members.
We're not,
Yeah, right.
and as long as we're not
As long as you're
discussing.
considered- As long as you're having it as a joint meeting. But we've,
Yep.
before in the past, they have provided
Right.
to us in
Right.
the past that I attended.
Yes,
So board members don't get, you guys, my understanding, right? We all get paid
anyway,
if you come to the meetings or not come to the meetings.
Yeah,
And you don't get paid for extra meetings.
right.
No.
Right.
I mean, so, okay, just wanted to clarify
And-
that, so.
I
Okay,
guess
so-
my question is this, that's a pretty hefty fee. We already pay MTA a great amount of money. And we could bump up our training there for I think another $800. And all of their training is provided to the township for free. Now, we could bring in an MTA person as well to do it. And I'd be really interested in seeing how that price compares to McKenna's price. Because, I mean, it's a hefty amount for,
no, the joint meetings are, I think, they're because there's a lot of interaction between the members too, between the board members and the commission members. And so that's helpful as well. And
Yeah.
I would prefer that. I mean, they made an offer. If MTA wants to come out and do it as well, that's fine. My understanding was, I think from one of the, let's see, they actually talk about it if it's in this email. It's a little bit different. And McKenna and Conakeys would be specific to Northfield Township as well, so.
I think this would be a little more in person. I don't want to say in person and with Zoom, but a little more Northfield specific than the MTA stuff that we've done. I did the BOT training through MTA, which I thought was great. But this, I think, would be more directed at us. The pricing's not that different, and I think if we had a good amount of participation, especially with new members like myself, who's on the ZBA. I mean, I'm any extra knowledge and training I can get to help me make better decisions, I can't say no to.
Yeah, the ZBA basically is all new members except for one, so they certainly could use some information from the planning commission as well. So anyway, I'd like to make a motion to schedule a joint meeting with the ZBA, the planning commission, and board of trustees member at a date to be determined at a cost of no more than $3,900,000.
No.
No, not
900,000.
3,900.
I know. Darn
Alrighty.
it. Okay.
Get those numbers, get that motion
Karen
down
us a
there.
bit.
Yeah, exactly.
$3,900. I'm tired. Okay.
Hear ya.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Nate.
And, my thought is, Mr. Moko brought up, through Zoom, it might be good. I know it said April or May or another mutually agreed upon it. Be curious to see what the rules are like, maybe July
Yeah.
1st. We
Yeah.
might actually be able to meet in person, which I think would enhance the training session.
I totally,
100% agree with you.
yep.
So
I can't wait to meet with all y'all.
Right. So I'd almost, again, I know they said April, May, who knows what I'm thinking, I'm guessing, I'm throwing the dart at my dartboard here. I'm thinking July 1st, we might be able to open up a little bit more. And so I would look to about that timing just to see if it would, or if it were to open up sooner to do it then, because I think this would be very beneficial in person.
Yeah, that was my thought is we'll kind of watch the,
Yeah.
the recommendations coming out. So, but,
Yeah.
okay.
Like I said, I'm throwing my dart, July 1st. That's my dart.
Magic 8 ball.
Yep, there you go. Magic 8 ball. Hitting bullseye.
Okay.
I don't see Miss Konecki on here, but she
No.
messaged the $600 lump sum
Oh. For all
for the meeting.
for 3 hours?
That's
Even
what I
better.
said, for 2 to 3 hours. But if you look at the rates that McKenna
That's the way
charges,
that I read it.
yeah,
Oh, I read it that way, but then when you read it more, it's kind of like per
2 to 3
hour.
hour training with both the PC and ZBA, plus prep time and training materials, all included for $600.
Okay, even better.
Well, that's a no-brainer.
Much better
Okay.
deal. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to interpret if it was 600 or 600 times 4 or 600 times 3.
All right. All right, are we ready?
Do we want to do
So-
an amendment to change the dollar amount?
We could change it
ma'am.
to no more than 3,000. I don't know who
But-
else. So 600, yeah.
Well, it's $600 for the whole meeting.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought. So we
So-
should have amended
Whatever.
to $600.
But then you have to pay the
The
ZBA and
yeah.
the planning commission.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yep, you got to pay all those members, and that's what,
If they all show up, yeah.
12 members, that's 1,200.
Yep.
1,800, $3,000.
Anybody, yeah.
I mean, it won't
Okay.
be $3,000, but
No.
that's not to exceed.
So are we changing it? Are we making a friendly amendment? Are we leaving it at 3,900 or are we changing it to
Changing it
3,000?
to 3,000,
Okay, so the friendly amendment is changed it to 3,000.
correct.
Thank you.
All right, so the motion was made by Chick, supported by
Nate,
Nate Moko. Any further discussion? Gosh, I want to say all those in favor, but Miss Manley,
hear
call
ya.
the roll.
It's kind of old. Nelson,
Yes.
Chick,
yes.
Zelenak,
Yes,
Moko,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Dignan,
Yes,
Manley, yes.
thank you, folks. Next item on the agenda is the fire department's request for a grant match, and Mr. Wagner is here, and I'm going to ask Mr. Wagner to summarize for us.
So I think in my memo, it summarized it pretty well, but basically, we're asking for a match of $16,399.95. But the true cost to Northfield Township is only $7,989.66. We will be reimbursed the $8,410.09. But all of the equipment will actually belong to Northfield Township.
Wagner, is that 7,900 in your budget, or is that something coming from the township outside of your budget?
No, that's in the fire department budget. I guess a little history. we've been trying to get this grant for probably 4 or 5 years. And last year we couldn't wait any longer, and we had to take out of service 2 sets of jaws just because they were antiquated. They just no longer did the job. They were not reliable. They didn't cut. They didn't have the strength to cut and push the metal of today's automobiles. So we saved money in our budget and purchased 1 set. Well, then this year comes along and we were successful in the grant. So we only needed half of what we would normally get. But then additional to that, we are kind of sponsoring the Washtenaw County Technical Rescue Team with jaws for their truck, which would be used in Northfield Township if we ever requested it, which is highly likely on US 23. But so the true cost to Northfield Township is the $7,989.66. And so, like I say, we'll do a couple of budget amendments. I've ran this all through Yvette. Yvette was fine with it. We'll be at a full complement for extrication equipment for Northfield Township. So.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. I'll make a motion to approve the request for grant matching funds for extraction equipment for the fire department.
I'll support.
Can we put in
Motion
the
by-
amount? Friendly
Not-
amendment,
not
can we
to
put in the
exceed-
amount?
Not to exceed $8,000.
No, actually, it needs to say the
not-
16,399.
16, I would say
Yep.
16,400.
Yeah,
Yeah, not to
That's fine.
exceed 16,400.
yep, got it.
Sorry, Chief.
No problem.
So the motion by Dignan, support by Ottawa. Any questions on the motion?
I have a question. So,
Yes, Ms. Taylor?
Chief, is the equipment going to reside at our township then? Is that what I understood?
No, it won't. It'll actually be on a couple different trucks in I believe the city of Ann Arbor and Pittsfield Township.
Okay,
And so we do this with hazmat equipment too. So like we have a good contingent of hazardous materials equipment in Northfield for Washtenaw County. And so a lot of the equipment that is on the technical rescue trucks initially and originally started with the city of Ann Arbor and Pittsfield Township. But now this small part of the equipment that they'll have we'll have to audit it every year, but it'll be on those trucks in Ann Arbor and or Pittsfield Township. But again, we've had a couple and since I've been here in Northfield, we've had probably 4 crashes where we've had to call for mutual aid and additional equipment. And specifically this equipment would be what they call a heavy truck rescue equipment, which we have had to use, had to request. So that's what it would be used for. So there's really no cost to Northfield Township. And if for some reason the technical rescue team were to fail, then that equipment would come back to Northfield Township.
okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Seeing none, Ms. Manley, can you call the roll?
Manley, yes. Otto,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Moko,
Yes.
Chick,
Yes,
Zelenak,
Yes,
Dignan,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate you always looking out for us.
and getting
Next
grants.
item, yeah, getting grants. That's it. So the next item on the agenda is the consideration of the renewal of the lawn care contract with J&M Landscaping. For those following digitally, it's page 173. I will take a little exception to the last paragraph, only because there's a lot of elements that have come up since this initial start of the discussion. There has been some rutting done on the non-motorized path from a 3/4 ton pickup truck being used to plow the non-motorized path. instead of a smaller vehicle with a brush on it. So there's rutting along the pathway where the truck has fallen off the path and rutted. There's several signs. I don't know for certain that they were knocked down by the plowing, but it seems pretty likely that they were knocked over through the plowing. I do know, and I'm still trying to get some clarity on this, that the surface area where most of the play stuff was painted on the cement is no longer there. I don't know yet whether or not that is a result of the way it was plowed or not. I'm trying to contact the manufacturer in regards to that. It should not have come up. It did not need to be sealed. I do know that for certain. But we've got to, there's questions to be answered there. With that being said, this is a question for the board to consider, whether or not to continue with these folks. I know there was a concern about the new area of the community center parking and plowing that because of the type of substrate that's there. And I really believe that we need to define, because it came to my attention late last year that areas of the park were being mowed, but a local business was being billed for part of that park, and I think we were also paying for it. So that's a concern, and that is the area near the dentist on Barker, the area in front of the park area that's fenced in there, and then the side lot next to it, and the back area where our picnic tables are back there. The tenants of that building were paying for that to be mowed, and that is our property. And I know we do pay for the park area to be mowed. So with that, I would really like to see us at least sit down with Mr. Moffett and have a discussion about this, get some clarity on it. They certainly do know our areas well, but Ms. Chick, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm wondering why our process has always been, and I'm going to be Mr. Dockett now since he's not here, is that we go out for bid for at least get 3 bids for this kind of a job. And we didn't in this case. I know J&M has been doing the job for us for quite a while. And they are local. Again, the other concern is that there could be other companies local to Northfield Township that would be interested too, that might be able to do a better, not only a better job, but the cost could be less, but we don't know. So if this isn't in a big hurry to get a response, would we consider going out for bids and talking to J&M in the meantime?
I think that's a possibility. Ms. Otto? Ms. Otto, we can't
You're
hear
muted,
you.
Jackie. Or Jan. Yep.
Sorry, my cats were making noise in the background, so I thought I'd mute myself.
You new to this? Oh, I'm just kidding. we all do it.
Normally we have 3 years. 3 year. Normally we have bids, like Janet said, and we do really try to get local. Try to keep the business here, try to do a local. I know that his contract is for a 3-year agreement. And we could do 1 or 2 things. We could go with him for 1 year and then put in for bids like we were doing for our insurance, or because we're at the tail end of the winter season, just up for bids now and see if there's any competitive pricing out there.
Well, with that, I'd like to make I mean, I'm willing to put forth a motion.
So which one are we talking about? Are we talking about lawn care? Or are we talking about winter?
And snow removal.
Are we doing
Snow
them
removal.
separately or are we doing them together?
Well, can I make a motion, and we'll
Okay, sure.
like to make a motion that board direct the supervisor to work with Mr. Wagner and Mr. Willis to define the areas of care, and then put out a request for proposals for lawn and snow removal, making sure that we take into account the considerations for our special parking lot and the areas of which motorized pathways and parks need to be treated.
I'll support.
So motion by Dignan, supported by Chick. Discussion on the motion.
Sure, I'd like to have discussion, Mr.
Sure,
Supervisor.
Ms. Zelenak, go right ahead.
So as it says, we have done this before in bids and things can change and they have come back as the low bidder.
have.
In addition to that, one year we took a lower bid and they were not within the township, and within about a month, within about 2 weeks, we went back to J&M Services because it was wintertime and they didn't show up at all. I also am, disappointed with what happened to with the park path, obviously. And that is in, new information that has come up that they didn't plow with what we thought they were going to plow, but I don't know if there was anything stipulated in our agreement how they would plow that. So that's very unfortunate. And again, we have done it. They have been serving us for 7+ years.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I certainly believe that Mr. Moffett would be happy to sit down and talk with us. I think it's important we rebid it because the requirements are different. I think the requirements have changed with the parking lot at the senior center and the motorized path. We want to put requirements for what is used to plow that. So Ms. Otto, go ahead.
And that's what I would recommend, is that you have requirements of what plow at the community center and what type of plow or equipment used at Barker Road Play Path. I think both have to be defined, and that should be in the contract.
Yep.
I agree.
And you may want to add, Mr. Dignan, is you may want to have the same people certainly plowing the community center parking lot so they're familiar with how that works.
Yes.
So you're not getting a rotating person where they forget that you have to raise the blade or put rubber shoots on it otherwise. So, yeah.
Thank you, Ms.
Right,
Zelenak.
very good. Thank you.
Mr. Moko?
I just want to throw out there at the end of the day, we need to do our due diligence, get at least one more quote, see what's going on. And I overall, I think J&M though over the years has done a great job. But you look at other communities and, J&M is here. Their work is on display. And overall, I've never seen our grass overgrown, anything like that. Plowing, hey, it's a learning curve. We'll see what happens, and hopefully the billing works out right. But yeah, we need to get another quote, and we need to keep in mind they are at home right here on display. So, that's their work shows.
Yeah, it does. And a single person running the plow that may have done something that shouldn't have been done is one thing that, no owner can necessarily control entirely. It happens. But I think that with us more clearly defining the requirements too, would give them an opportunity to come back to us with an appropriate bid price and not feel obligated to remain where they're at exactly for services that might be different than what was initially defined 3 years ago. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I want to be fair to them too in that front. This is they were very kind and stepping right back into the fold when we did have that situation where we went away and came back, and we appreciate that. So, all right. I don't know if Mr. Willis uses their services at the wastewater treatment plant. I think maybe for lawn, but I don't know about plowing. Mr. Willis, if he's on. Mr. Willis, do you use them for plowing?
No, we have our own plow for our own stuff. And then we cut our own grass too.
You do? Okay,
Yes, we do.
They do
Thank you, sir.
everything.
they do.
They do.
They do.
Awesome.
Do
Yeah,
a lot.
Like a W.
we love you.
You guys are amazing. Thank you guys for taking down that sign over
You're
there.
welcome.
You haven't noticed the old Darling Curtis sign is down. So,
Yes,
but I
thank you.
digress. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Willis. All right, with no other, anyone else have anything, or
Mm-mm.
Emily, can you call the roll?
Manley, yes. Otto,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Moko,
Yes.
Zelenak,
Yes.
Chick,
Yes,
Dignan,
Yes.
7-0.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is on page 200, and it is the designation of a FOIA coordinator. I guess my only question on this one is Miss Zelenak, or I guess, I mean, I'm in the I'm like right near the office, or in the office 4 days of the week. Are you about the same?
You know,
Okay, well-
yeah, I usually stop in. I mean, I'm in the office 3 times a week, usually, sometimes more now.
I mean, I don't care who it is, but it should probably be somebody who's around pretty regularly.
Well, I personally, Mr. Supervisor, think it should be you as the legal agent of the township in the absence of the township manager,
I'm
personally.
happy to do that. Okay. Is that a
So I will
motion?
make, yes, that'll make a motion that the township appoint Mr. Ken Dignan, supervisor, the FOIA, coordinator, which is the FOIA coordinator. So
If
that,
we add the word interim,
The absence of a township manager?
yeah,
Yes.
absence of a township manager, and I will spell out FOIA, so it's the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA. So that, let me start again. Make a motion that we appoint the township manager, Mr. Ken Digna, as the interim FOIA, Freedom of Information Act coordinator for Northfield Township.
Miss Lemble, that was township supervisor, she meant.
Oh,
You
sorry.
said on accident, but
Thank you for that clarify. I didn't write this motion down, Ken. Mr. Dignan, that's, I should have.
Miss Zelenak. And is there support?
I'll support.
Okay, Mr. Moko supports. Any discussion on the motion? We don't get floods of these, so we do get them on. I shouldn't have said that. Probably
No, you
cursed us.
shouldn't have said that.
You
They come
shouldn't
they
have
come
said
in,
that at
they
all.
come and go. They come and come.
Yeah.
They can come
Miss
in.
Manley.
rounds.
Can you call the roll, please?
Manley, yes. Chick,
yes,
Dignan,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Zelenak,
Yes.
Moko,
Yes.
Otto,
yes.
7-0.
All right. Next item on the agenda is planning commissioners training for RRC Red Development Ready Communities Program. Okay. And that, I believe, was in the packet previously. And the question came up, Ms. Chick, did you want to?
oh,
Discuss
yeah,
that?
no, I didn't add it this time, so I'm not sure why it's in here.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know why it came back up. I know it was on
Yeah.
there. I
The
think it
only
might have just been a carryover.
Yeah, the only question was, the actual question was, would any of the commissioners get paid for training? And the determination was, nobody gets paid for training, but we recommend that all the commissioners do, or at least one commissioner takes the training, so.
Right. And if anyone has any questions on how to do that, I can register them, or Dr. Griffith can register them as well.
All right, cool, thank you.
All right, yeah. Next item is distribution of township manager duties in the absence of a township manager. I did take and type something up. By no means is it anything other than we were kind of going through just some logical stuff of where things are at and how things are done. in the township right now. There's some things that, I don't know if anyone has any questions about it, or if there's concerns, or if there's changes. Certainly open to any kind of revisions that the board seems fit. Ms. Otto?
Yeah, so I did have some recommendations. It would have been nicer to number these, but I'll do it myself. So the fourth one down, where you have the personnel committee, because there's union and non-union contract administration and execution, it truly is the public safety director who does the union. And it really should be the board of directors or the township board that does the non-union contract administration, not the personnel committee.
Okay,
Agree.
I'll note that change. Anyone else?
Oh, go ahead.
Ms. Chick?
Were you done,
Oh.
Jackie?
I had more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Please.
on number 6, I'm only recommending that it's the Board of Trustees that does this report on legislative changes. It really is all our responsibility, each one of our responsibilities to, if there's any legislative changes that come up, that we bring it up to the board. Because I know in my position, in my position at work, I get privy to a lot of different information that I can bring to different board members, such as the treasurer or the clerk, or to the board members overall.
The only caveat to that is that maybe it should have been separated out, is the second part of that sentence. And that is the responding to inquiries from other sources such as governmental agencies, outside vendors, auditors, attorneys, and the press. Now, I've handled
You're the press.
some of those, most of those, in the absence of Mr. Ains right now. But I would imagine if it's a question from the auditors, I'm not going to talk to them.
I do agree. It should be actually 2 separate things. I do agree with that.
Yeah, so we can separate that, and the top one will just be all of it. We all should be doing
Right.
that.
Right.
And then the second one is the
I can agree
responding.
with that.
The second one, responding from inquiries from governmental agencies, outside vendors, auditors, attorneys. And then, of course, if it's anything of a substantive nature, whichever one of us is responding to that would bring it to the board if it's a substantive change.
Right. And then for me, the next 2, because facilitate intergovernment relations, working partners, county, state, federal jurisdiction, and agencies. I put Board of Trustees or as assigned, because we have people assigned to some of these things.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that statutorily we're assigned to. There's other things that we're on. So just as assigned then.
Okay, and I would say the same thing with the next one, because it's as assigned, or is assigned to those county or state agencies. We've already identified who would be assigned to those.
Yep.
As a representative. And that was the end of mine.
Yes, Ms. Chick.
So I used the actual manager's duties as taken off of our website. And I did send this to Ms. Otto about a week or so ago, only, I think. But I'm gonna have to go through it one by one because you don't have that in front of you. But ensure all township ordinances are enforced equally, equitably, and consistently. I put Dignan. Yes, Mr. Dignan, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been kind of doing that. We've had quite a few.
Exactly. So the second one was liaison with government entities, citizens, attorneys, and press, and I have put Dignan.
Okay.
Okay. Administer contracts between the township and others. Well, that's obvious. That's what your job is. So Dignan. And then attend all township board meetings, providing key information to the board. The manager partakes in discussions. Oh, sorry. Anyway, but that's a board duty.
That's a board thing.
Yeah. And then recommend to the board various policies and procedures and ordinances. That is every board member as well, right?
Yep.
Okay, be an ex officio member of all boards and committees of the township, and that would be, that I think that's covered in the other,
It should be as assigned,
As
yeah,
assigned.
yeah.
Yeah, we,
if people are assigned to it.
Yeah, we have representation on them all.
Yes.
just about everything. Yep.
And prepare and administer the annual township budget under state law. I put Dignan and Zelenak and Starbuck. Unless the manager is hired before June, then the manager actually presents the budget, but the Dignan, Zelenak and Starbuck would help create it unless there's a manager or with the manager, so.
Yeah.
Be responsible to the board to provide research and administration of their work, and that's kind of the board, right?
Yep.
Administer personnel policies for all appointed employees. That's the personnel committee.
Mhm.
Develop and administer operational procedures to increase efficiency and reduce costs, and that's the board as well. Perform other duties as directed by ordinance or resolution of the board, and that was board direction only. So then the question comes up about first contacts. Okay, so the go-to or the first board member contact person, I put, and I don't know, Jackie, if you want this or not, but for the HR or personnel, I put you would be the first contact. So if anybody had a question, I know, lucky you, they would go to you first and then you would go to the committee, correct?
Oh, usually it's Lenore.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure who is, okay, so that could be.
And I'll, the three of us,
She's in the office.
that,
Is there a chair of the committee?
no.
Oh.
We usually have, we usually have Lenore do the main emails to like, to Stacy and stuff like that. She is our main person to make those communications.
Okay. And then, so.
And I'm, the only thing I do from the personnel committee is I sign those individuals that were directed, that had direct report into the township manager. I sign their payroll. That's the only thing I do.
So if an employee had a problem or issue and they wanted an HR question,
go
they would go
They
to
go to
Lenore?
Lenore.
Okay,
Yeah, and she brings it up to us.
Yeah, then I would bring it up to the personnel committee.
okay. So that would be,
And I think part of the is that, you know, I go to the office at least 3 times a
Right.
week, so I'm there.
You're there.
And so available if they have some concerns, they talk to me about it. So lucky me. But I mean, it's important. It's certainly important to listen
Yes,
so
it
we
is.
can,
Right.
you know, create an environment. So I actually am available and I tell them I'm available so that if they have any concerns. And I would think that, you know, yes. Anyway, yes.
okay, so Kathy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yes, I mean, they can contact any of us, but
Right.
usually if any of us hear something, we group the 3 of us together to make any kind of major decisions.
Right.
So
And we,
main
we
is a
communi-
committee, but yeah, they can address anyone really.
right.
It really should be of all 7 of us. If any of us are approached
Yes.
by an employee with a concern, it should be,
Oh, sure.
thank you,
Yeah.
and then let one of the committee members of the personnel
Right.
committee know. And
And then for specifically because we don't have a code enforcement officer, Ken, I thought maybe that would be something you could take care of until we get somebody
been-
or with a maybe.
I've been
with the
doing it.
police? All right,
I've been doing it with a lot of support from
the police department.
McKenna.
Oh, okay.
No, these are friendly. I mean, no, it doesn't get like that, but
Okay,
yeah, but no, McKenna's been doing the code letters for violations, and then I've been hand delivering them because mail is, I mean, we've been mailing them, but I've also been hand delivering a copy because you just can't depend on the mail anymore. And people have been very understanding thus far. We have about a half dozen of them sitting here that came in over the last couple days that we're working on.
okay, good, thank you. And then for planning and zoning, I've been checking in with Mary and making sure that everything is okay and and if she needs any help. So if they want to reach out to me, I absolutely will help them with anything. If it's anything like a developer that I can't talk to, then, you know, then we get that passed along. But they know that they can contact me as well. And then, of course, the clerk department would be Kathy, and treasury department, Ms. Zelenak, and that's all I had. So if anybody else has got something.
Yeah, I originally went by that list, and then it got sent, then I got, someone pointed out that the duties from his job
Contract.
description.
Yeah.
But I think we've covered the one thing that we didn't cover, and I just hope none of this comes up. So is you know, so the providing general oversight of all functions in the township, and on the township board's behalf, conduct research and perform administrative duties as designated by the board of trustees. So if we have to do research, we're going to have to divvy that up as it comes, to one of us or multiples. And then the last part is important, because we do have some utilities work being done in the township on behalf of the township. And, you know, I guess what I would say is, when it comes to certain things, we're going to have to go out on site potentially and look at something, or say, yes, something's good or bad. I would definitely defer to our professionals in the field. So if it's a planning thing or zoning thing, we would certainly defer to them. But I think we're going to have to I'm going to have to sign off on DTE Energy's work when they put in the light posts and they're in the process of that. They've put the bases in, they've run the electrical, but at the community center, that's going to be going in. You know, so we certainly could delegate that down to Tammy. I don't think Tammy wants us to delegate that down to her, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, maybe, but it's those kinds of things. You know, I think we're all very conscious of past boards, and we want to be careful to make sure that we are very open with things and communicate with each other about what's going on. But so that's just it. The contracted services and stuff, they're not limited to, but, you know, legal engineering, architecture, planning, assessing, those kind of things, just guidelines. So.
Yeah, and I've said it before, you know, our staff in that office, they know their job. They've been doing it for a while. They can make decisions on their own. If it's something that affects the budget, then they have to come to us, or if it's something they think they can't handle, they know who they can go to. And I think that everything's going to run fairly smoothly. We just all have a lot of extra work to do right now. So thanks everybody for pitching in.
Does anybody feel a need that we have to adopt this? Or are we under a general understanding of where we're at? I mean, I
don't have the need to adopt it. I think we have a good understanding of where people's roles and responsibilities are at this time.
I think
agree.
if there was any conflict that, you know, then we would have to, but I think everybody's have a consensus. Are we all good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
All right. Anyone have anything else, or can we move on to reports?
I'm good.
All right. So moving on to reports. So I apologize for not having the time to put something in writing. It has been a fly by the seat of your pants since Mr. Ains left on a couple fronts, but a couple things that are going on. One, we did find out that with al dente pasta, there is a possibility of them doing something that's not going to cost them $250,000 to make a sewer adjustment. It's going to cost about 10% of that, which means they may consider looking at options. That's basically all I can say right now. They're trying to figure out those options on their own, but it was nice to be able to call and let Mr. Duchesne know that that was the case, because that's a very, very substantial difference between that, and it could keep the local business in town. That's a big deal. The second thing it came across just before the meeting is there was a communication. There has been a liquor license transferred into the township. When a liquor license is transferred, it doesn't, the local governing board does not have a say in it.
Right.
It's not a new issue, but it's for Pure Market. So across from the township hall, which is nice. We kind of knew that was coming. It's really all, other than the fact that there has been, I think with the little bit of a thaw we've had, people have decided they're gonna call in a lot of zoning violations. So we're trying to go through those and figure those out and make sure that we approach people with a kind heart and say, look, we just want to beautify things and make things look better. This is where we're at, and try to be understanding, but yet firm when we've got to be. So, and Vidya is very good at that. So she's been the one really helping out with that. That's really where we're at with the supervisor's report. I don't have anything beyond that. I'll try to get it to you in a written form in the future. Just right now with all the township manager stuff going on, it's time is limited. So does anyone have any questions for me? Not, I'll go to Ms. Zelenak for the treasurer's report.
Yes, I would just like to remind people that we can no longer take real property taxes at the township offices, that you have to contact the county. They have a nice website. You can actually pay online, or you can call them. We do accept delinquent personal property taxes, so we are accepting those. And we are working on something called settlement, which is we settle with the county so that any unpaid taxes, we are reimbursed. And it's a tedious, stressful process, and we're in the midst of that right now. So if you'd like to contact us with us still working on an alternated schedule, it's best to contact us through email so that we give quicker responses.
Thank you, Ms. Zelenak. Any questions for Ms. Zelenak? Hearing none, Ms.
Oh,
Manley?
actually, I missed Mr. Dignan. I did want to take it to the actual finance report. Is that we got some very good, considering the interest rates right now with the state bank. The money market is at 0.37%. So I will be moving the money market money into a CD is now at 0.37% for 6 months. So I will be making that move to transfer the 0.20% into a 0.37 CD. So
Okay.
I wanted to call that, and we will be closing out the construction fund at the First National Bank. We have received the check. There was still some interest out there, and I will be depositing that into the level 1 construction fund.
Thank you, Ms. Zelenak.
You're welcome.
Ms. Manley?
Thank you.
Pretty much just what the report says. Christina's been working pretty diligent, getting Mr. Ains straightened out in his payroll and HR issues. So I'd like to thank her extra for that, because it's been a lot of back and forth. Again, no May election this year that we're aware of. Not sure of August yet. And it's pretty much it, just doing what we do.
Okay. Ms. Chick?
The Planning Commission received the final draft of the code enforcement zoning ordinance text amendment. There was some minor text changes, and a motion was set to public hearing for the ordinance. Zoning administration's duties, code violations, and penalties, and it was passed unanimously at the Planning Commission. We had 2 cases we had to decide on. One was actually a request to rezone a vacant property, which was withdrawn. The other one was a private road for 20 acres on Northfield Church Road. They are going to put 3 single-family dwellings, and they wanted to be accessed via a 20-foot wide Class B private road. And then at the March 3rd, this is not February, part of the February report, but this is important. At the March 3rd Planning Commission meeting, a motion was passed to table work on the development procedures ordinance until no later than 180 days due to the administrative issues affecting the building department. The board or commission feels that we need the manager's input, and now we need a building inspector, and that input from those two people is important in creating the development procedure packet. So, and there's also a legal issue regarding language in section 36,866 and the ability to update the current ordinance without an amendment. And we've put that question in front of the attorney. So it will be coming up again. We're just not sure when. And that's all I have for the Planning Commission report.
Thank you, Ms. Chick. No ZBA meeting, right? Okay.
No ZBA, no updates.
Ms. Otto, Parks and Rec.
Yeah, so I wanted to provide an update. This didn't get into my announcement or my memo, but because we had the meeting on March 3rd. But the Parks and Rec Subcommittee and Ken and Nate joined us and met with the state of Michigan DNR Representative Adrian Stay. We did discuss the development projects for Park and Recreation Board with the focus and priorities on North Village and the community park. We discussed all the attributes and everything, and reviewing our master plan. Andrea recommended that the township apply for the Natural Resource Trust grant. And the grants could be completed over multiple years for the same park development project. Example, if we had several phases of the park, things that had to be done within the park in several phases. So it was recommended that the township apply for the grant this year. It's not guaranteed. The deadline is April 1st. While she said if we don't get into the grant process this year, at least it will help us in the next following year. But she said going through the process is more of a learning and learning curve for each township if we've never done it before. For the Natural Resource Trust grant, there is a 25% match. Part of that match could be funded, applied through the Washington County. So their grant program starts around September. Discussion points that we had, boundary maps. This didn't need to be a formal map, but it does need to be completed before April 1st. And it does not need to be completed before April 1st. Like Ken said, it just needed to be on like a napkin. Design of the park or site plan is the same thing. It didn't need to be a formal plan, and it is open for change. The budget amount for the design can be 15% of the grant. So whatever we get for the designer, we can put it in our grant. All areas that need ADA compliant need to be identified. And if there's any changes to the formal design, ADA compliance is still required. The public hearing on the park design, since the public hearing will be about funding of the development, the township will need to have a public hearing before April 1st, and was recommended to be scheduled for March 23rd township board meeting. Type of trail, it needs to be a permanent trail. We can't have a dirt trail because it does need to be ADA compliant. The beach, the development will need to have an EGLE permit, EGLE permit. And it was a recommendation for us to also schedule a meeting with them. Maintenance, as part of any DNR or any DNR grant funding, we will have to have a maintenance plan, how we are going to maintain it. The township is required to identify the staff or a subcontractor, and how and how we're going to allocate it. So there has to be a budget for it. Sorry, my cat is playing with everything on my desk. And then the last thing, a resolution is required since it will involve grant funding. So we will have to have a resolution on this to move forward with the DNR grant. And that is it. It was very
Yes.
informative, very informative.
Ms. Chick.
So Jackie, you said that you were talking about scheduling a public hearing for the March 23rd meeting.
Mhm.
So is that like a formal public hearing that has to be noticed 15 days in advance? Or is this just what is it? Discussion meeting with the public?
It's a discussion meeting with the public. Is that how you heard it, Ken?
That's, yeah. I didn't think it was a public hearing.
Okay, yeah, because otherwise you've passed the posting date.
Well, it won't be a public hearing now.
No.
If it's on the third.
I guess
yeah.
not.
No, but
Well,
I
it does
didn't.
say, it
I
does
didn't-
say public hearing on park design, so then
Okay.
maybe we won't be able to make the April 1st date then.
Okay, so, and I have, if I can, I have two other comments.
Go
Under
ahead.
the planning commission update, if you can request a correction in the minutes, because it says auto commented that the planning commission requested that the proposal include a public park. I believe you said that you didn't make that remark, so you might want to have that taken out. And the other is that the planning commission has not received any requests on any proposal to include a public park. If you're referring to the North Territorial and Whitmore Lake Road, we haven't even seen the proposal for that plan yet, and we are not even talking to the developer because we can't. So I don't know who made that request or if it actually was a request. So I think that needs to be corrected in your minutes. Under correspondence, it says there was a request from Mr. Stewart discussing the possibility of creating a memorial in the community park. It's pretty cool. I've often thought of a veterans memorial in the park as an option. Yeah, they have a beautiful one in South Lyon. I think it's very small, but if you want to incorporate that into the design, that would be awesome. So
Excellent.
that's all.
All right.
Usually memorials are donated by somebody.
Usually fundraise for them. You start, the municipality may start it and then fundraise, the community fundraises to continue to grow it and add to it and such.
Yeah.
Mylan did a really nice one.
Yeah.
But all right, let's go to Ms. Zelenak for the LPC.
We'd like to thank the board for sending the purchase development ordinance to the planning commission. We are planning a spring hike on May 22nd at the Whitmore Lake Preserve. And we are going to have two of those hike, all of them going to be guided tours. Two of them will be guided tours with Washtenaw County Parks and Recs. And our meeting times are the first Monday of each month at 6 p.m. We just wanted to be a little different. We didn't want to start at 7.
So thank you very much, Ms. Zelenak. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Zelenak?
Not a question, I have a comment on your action item about creating a spreadsheet with goal, preserve farmland and natural areas in the township and establish ongoing advocacy and outreach to educate children. I think that is awesome. That you're
Thank you.
reaching out to the children and teaching them when they're young about preserving natural areas. So I appreciate that and nice job on the minutes.
Yeah, well, thank you, Ms. Prijnet, for doing the minutes. She does a great job. They actually, Ms. Prijnet and our new member, Ms. West, had put together, they've looked at different websites as far as activities, and a lot of them are for children. So
Nice.
again, we have to, again, how do we get this publicized so that people are aware of them? So instead of recreating the wheel, we're just adding to it, and it was quite impressive. So it's a matter of, again, trying to get that out to the public of what's available. So
Nice.
Very good. A lot of research being done. Good committee.
Thank you, Ms. Zelenak. I did have a couple more things
Thank you.
just to let you guys know. And I apologize for one. You may have seen a memo in regards to the Pittsfield Township agreement that we've had with them for over a decade, and sharing a building department official for building inspections is going to come to an end in May, and they're not in a position to renew it at this point. So we are going to be looking for it's rather quite timely with us looking at the building department and building officials in general. So that came across. I did receive and sign and return to the township manager, the previous township manager, the severance agreement. So we received the signed copy. I signed it and we've sent back a copy to him. I wanted to let you know that has happened. A couple things on the next meeting. Next meeting, 2 weeks from now, is going to start at 6 for those that can make it. The reason it's starting at 6 is we're going to start with a 1 hour time with Stacy to go over what we're looking, a whole lot of things around the township manager in regards to what type of manager we're looking for, what type of requirements, what type of compensation, what we're going to have in the agreement, all those kinds of things that she's putting together something for us to go through. That's going to be really helpful. Obviously taking from the experiences we've had with our two previous township managers and figuring out as a group what we would like going forward. So that'll be the first hour of the time will be spent there. We're going to have a busy meeting because also I'm working with our legal counsel in regards to marijuana, because the marijuana entities that were with us previously or that came before us previously that were delayed 180 days.
Is already out.
Well, the time is up, but also, so we've got to figure that out. And then, because we're going to either have to act in a way or continue to delay, or whether we have to take any action is what we're working with legal counsel on right now. Because it may have been 180 days or until the township board acts. So we're trying to figure that out. A request did come into the township in regards to one of the marijuana establishments wanting to change the name, the entity that holds it, and legal responded to that. In regards to they'd have to go through the application process again. That's going on. The DDA, there is one thing. The DDA is in the process of finding an attorney. This is a right afforded to them by the act that allowed the establishment of DDAs, because we are trying to get to the bottom of the DDA boundary so that we can start capturing DDA dollars as property values climb. With that being said, this is a problem that has been long kicked down the road, decades long problem. And as you all know, the DDA has very limited funds. What I would like to see is the township board consider splitting the initial allocation of dollars that they're looking to spend on legal, which I think it's a small amount. It's around $4,000 total is what they're looking to spend. That the board consider at a future date sharing that cost with the DDA. It's one of the things that they need to be able to function and operate, because they've really been limping along, unable to do much of anything outside decorating flower pots on Main Street. And it's a darn shame, especially as we start to turn the corner with some of our economic growth in the future. So that's all I have. Are there any other announcements? Yes, Ms. Otto.
I just had one more. It was a public meeting, not a public hearing.
That's okay, that's a
Big
big difference. Yep. Okay, we can have a public meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Guys, make sure you eat early and you bring snacks because it's going to be a long meeting in 2 weeks from now. It is. We've got a lot going on. We'll try to limit what else is coming for that from that perspective. Next item on the agenda is, you know what? Hang.
And Janet lost her internet.
I know okay. I was looking to see if she'd jump back on. If there are any members of the public that would like to address the board, this is the time where we take petitions and communications from the public. Please raise your hand if you would like to address the board. You have 3 minutes. I do not see any hands raised. Oh, hang on. I'm going to let Miss Chick back in. Welcome back, Miss Chick.
Sorry, I lost my internet.
That's okay. We just took petitions from the public. There are none board member comments. Would you like to start us off, Miss Chick?
Yes, I would like to thank Tammy Averill at the community center. She is working very hard to get homebound people that in the Meals on Wheels program vaccines, COVID vaccines, because it's very difficult to get that vaccine to those that are not able to get out of the house. So she's working very hard to do that. Also, if I can make an announcement, they're having Project Bunny 2021, and they're looking for donations for kids of gift bags, baskets, small items, candy, whatever. And you can drop those donations off at the Community Senior Center no later than March 26th. So if people would like to donate to that, that would be awesome. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Miss Chick. Miss Manley?
Nothing new.
Okay, Mr. Moko.
I just want to say I look forward to the big things coming in town here. Things are moving along well, and I had a township resident reach out to me about the park, and I look forward to sitting down with him and talking about. He's got a committee he's forming, so I'm looking forward to talking with him and seeing just getting some more public opinion, and let's get it done.
Thank you, Mr. Moko. Mr. Nelson?
I have nothing to report at this time. Thank the board for its service.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Mrs. Eleanor?
Yes, I want to thank the pop-up clinic for the COVID shots at the Whitmore Lake schools. I hear it was really well done from people that I know that they were able to go. They said it was very efficient, just a good process, and very thankful that it occurred.
Do we know
Thank
if
you, Miss Eleanor.
I'm sorry. Will they be doing
Go
that
ahead.
again, Eleanor?
Pardon me?
Will they be doing that again?
We don't really know. I know they take into account the numbers and all that, so I'm not sure, but yeah, I do not know the answer to that. I just know
And
the
it
one
was-
that did happen was very successful.
And it was done within the county.
Yep.
If you're signed up within the county, that's how it was based.
Yep, but it was very, very successful. Like I said, people that attended that I know said it was really seamless, and basically they were very pleased because they know someone else or their spouses went somewhere else and just said it just wasn't nearly as well run as the one that occurred in Whitmore Lake.
Good.
Okay. Miss Otto?
Yeah, I had just two things. I wanted to ask about the memos that were in our packets. There were several memos that did not have an answer in our packet. I would just like to ask that going forward that if we do have memos in our packet, to please include a date and who they're from, so we know how to correspond if we had any questions. That's all I ask on that. And then I also want to thank Dan Willis for his assistance today. We had a resident that evidently there was a dead deer that was by one of the bus stops, and they were able to move it. I did contact the road commission. Between Dan and the road commission, Dan's team was able to move it, and I appreciate his help very much on that.
Dirty jobs. Sewer.
Yes, yes.
Dead animals. So, all right.
Good job, Dan.
Yes, definitely.
You have very inquisitive kids,
Yes. Well, sure. Absolutely.
and
So-
you want to make sure that the health and safety of those kids come first, and
For sure.
so I appreciate it.
The only comment I have is for those of you out there that are in the qualifying category for the COVID shot, whether it be through your employment and what you do for a living, or whether you're in the age category. My father, I was able to take him and myself. We went and were able to get our first COVID vaccine. It was the Pfizer vaccine at Rite Aid. And specifically, this, I don't know why this is, but the Rite Aid in Ionia, Michigan has tons of open appointments, tons of them, like tomorrow. I mean, they're wide open as long as you meet the criteria, and you just go to Rite Aid site, you register, you find Ionia, and you can get in and get your vaccine there. And then you come back 3 weeks later. I know it's a little bit of a drive for folks, but I know there are people out there too that are really concerned. And, I just wanted to make sure folks knew that was available. I do know Washtenaw County is doing everything they can to be able to provide the vaccines in an orderly fashion. But those mobile clinics are quite a production to put together. And there's a lot of stuff having to deal with keeping the vaccine at the right temperatures and all of that. So, I mean, I give those guys a lot of credit, and I understand the decision is your own to make, whether you choose to take that or not. But that information's out there now for folks in the event that they were interested.
How
With
far
that-
away is Ionia?
I'm sorry.
How far away is Ionia?
It's about an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's between here and Grand Rapids.
I'm like signed up with 4 agencies and can't get an appointment, so.
Yeah, I mean, you can get in tomorrow. I mean, it's crazy. I don't understand it. No other Rite Aids around have it.
Right.
They're open. I guess either people of Ionia just don't want it, and they've got it. But I don't know. But that it is there. Watch now. Now everybody will be there. So,
Yeah.
But all right. Any other questions? Any other concerns? Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Chick, supported by Nelson. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there. I know it was a late night. I apologize for that. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good night.
Aye.
Good night.
Aye.
Thank you.